What is up, everyone? I'm Rusty, your local laboratory maniac, and this is Landman EDH. I recently made a video for a personal friend of the Fire Lord Azula card as a commander, and now another friend requested a Toph the First Metalbender deck list. So I'm going to make a similar video giving a few unique directions to build around this version of Toph. And I'm going to also break down the decks, the deck components, and briefly describe the strategies, and then hopefully one will suit your fancy. Now, let's go ahead and just jump into it. She's a 4 mana Naya legendary creature human warrior ally. Non token artifacts you control are lands in addition to their other types. They do not gain the ability to tap for mana. At the beginning of your end step, Earthbend 2. Now, Earthbending says target land you control becomes a 0/0 creature with haste that's still a land. Put two +1/+1 counters on it. When it dies or is exiled, return it to the battlefield tapped, and it's a 3/3. 95% of people are going to be building her the exact same way, artifact sacrificing. And there's really nothing wrong with that. That's a very powerful ability. Artifacts, by their very nature, are powerful. However, we're going to do a few things differently. Now, as I go through, if you could think of any cards I should throw in here, comment down below. I'm sure my friend would appreciate it. I do deck build a lot, but I am not omniscient, so I may have missed something. So help my friend out in the comments down below by commenting. So I broke down the decks in a few ways here. I want to do a mix, some artifact stuff, some land stuff. For land stuff, I have a secret commander deck around Flags of Trokair. I have a deck around deserts and lands ETB to do damage. And then I have a deck around Manlands, lands that turn themselves into creatures. For artifacts, I have a deck that uses Toph's ability to earthbend artifacts and recur them, focusing on the map cards to tutor lands, specific lands that we want. And the colorblind is a funny way to say Toph can't see colors. So I have a deck based around that where it's almost all colorless, minus the commander and a few of the Toph earthbending cards that came in the set. I also had an indestructible theme for it. So let's go ahead and get into them. And there will be timestamps in the video if you want to see one in particular. This first deck has a secret commander, meaning we're going to build around it. Flagstones of Trokair is a legendary land that we have chosen as the secret commander. So it goes in the 99. The Flagstone of Trokair taps for white mana, and when it is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you search your library for a plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Now, this obviously was first designed, so if you actually draw two of these in like a 60 card format, you don't lose out on a land due to the legendary role. You actually get to get another land, but we're going to do something very interesting with it. And I will note that it says a planes, not a basic plane, so keep that in mind, bud. Also, the strategy of this whole deck will be to get this card out, and there's plenty of ways to do it in our colors, and then sacrifice it, destroy it. That way it triggers its ability, and then we're going to either get it back various ways, do it again, and it's going to mana ramp like crazy. So for the deck breakdown for this, mana, which is like land ramping, mana dorks, and mana rocks is 15, but that's misleading because we have other ways to get lands. I'll talk about it here in a second. For draw, we have about 13 cards that do that. I count one instance of drawing three or more, or multiple instances of drawing one or more as draw spells. And then removal, we have 10. I didn't include land removal in this category. We have 25 ways to sacrifice lands, either via other effects, destruction effects, or lands that sacrifice themselves. Tokens is one win con in this deck, and we'll have around 11. You could add more if you wanted to. And our land total is 38, and I do include MDFCs in land total. There are a plethora of cards that say destroy target land. Its controller looks for a basic land card and puts it into play. Creatures, lands, instants, and sorceries do this. Here, we have a few on the screen. Geomancer's Gambit, Cleansing Wildfire, and Sundering Eruption are sorceries that do this. Sundering Eruption is also a land on the back. Krinko, Buzz Crusher, and White Orchid, Phantom are creatures that ETB and do this. From the Ashes is probably one of the meatiest ones. It destroys all non basics, and each player searches for basics equal to the amount destroyed. I have it in the considering section of the deck list. You can decide if you want to put this in there. Don't tell the play group that I told you to put it in there, though. And now Nahiri's lithoforming lets you sacrifice X lands, and then you get to draw X cards and then play X additional lands on your turn. So we've destroyed our flagstones and we want to bring it back, do it again. Well, brought back effects is what I'll call them for this video. Some people call them second sunrise effects, but you might pull this card in the avatar boosters. I know you're buying a few. It is a 2 mana instant. It says choose up to 2 target permanent cards that were put into your graveyard from the battlefield this turn. Return them to the battlefield tapped. So you destroy your flagstone, you play this, you bring it and maybe another land back, and you just keep doing that to get extra value. I have 6 total brought back effects in this deck. Let's go over a few of them. Jared's Hourglass Pendant is an artifact with flash that sacks to bring everything back that was put into the graveyard this turn. Sudden Salvation does this for 3 targets and it's an instant. And if you choose your opponent's targets, you get to draw. Second Sunrise does this for all artifacts, creatures, enchantments, and lands, including your opponents. Faith's Reward does all permanents put into your graveyard this turn. Cosmic Intervention has Foretell, exiles permanents instead of putting them into the graveyard, then returns them at the end step to your field. I also put a few return all lands from the graveyard cards in this deck. You can remove the brought back effects and replace them with this type of effect. The downside is that brought back effects work on anything, not just lands. So it's also like protection against board wipes, and it's less limited and it's at instant speed typically. Here's a splendid reclamation you probably all know. It says return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And then they kind of power shifted it up to Will of the Soul Tie. One of its abilities is say target player mills 3 cards, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, and other abilities. So it's been Splendid Reclamation has been power crept out. There are also lands to ETB to sack other lands, so you can sacrifice your flagstones to get more land. Lotus Veil, Lotus Field, and Scorch Ruin do this. Scorch Ruin has gone up in price like crazy. But there are also fetch lands that you can sacrifice, go get a land, and then play brought back effects to get those as well. So, like I said, flagstones can go get any planes when it goes to the graveyard. So, I actually included 18 planes in this deck, including many multicolored ones, as you can see on the screen. I didn't include the OG dual lands because of the price, but you could if you want, or you can proxy them. There can be a plains sub theme if you wanted. You can include Emeria the Sky Ruin that can recur creatures at upkeep if you have 7 planes, you 100% will have 7 planes pretty fast. And then Emeria Shepherd is an angel that has landfall. When a land ETBs, you return a non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. But if is a plains, you actually get that thing to the battlefield. It's very great recursion. It is 7 mana though. As one win con, we will have tokens. Many cards give us tokens when a land ETBs, a land goes to the graveyard, or a land leaves the graveyard. Sand Scout, Turn Timber Sower, and Titania Protector of Argoth are creatures that get us tokens when a land goes into the graveyard. They get us 1/1 warriors, a 0/1 plant, or a 5/5 elemental. Crawling Sensation is an enchantment that gets you a 1/1 insect if a land goes into your graveyard from anywhere. Quintorius Field Historian gets you a 3/2 spirit when any card leaves your graveyard. Field of the Dead gets you a 2/2 as long as you have 7 or more lands with different names when a land ETBs. Veldar Retreat gets you a 2/2 cat when a land ETBs, or a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and vigilance. Omnath Locus of Rage gets you 5/5 elemental when a land ETBs, and when an elemental dies, you can bolt something, like either a creature or a player. We'll be playing the Haro lands. Of course, you probably have seen these a dozen times. Essentially, you sacrifice a land, then go get 2 basic lands, put them into play. But if you sacrifice your flagstone, you actually get 3 lands. Cycle of Renewal is almost a functional reprint of this, except for the lands come in tapped. Lastly, you can play these two cards. I love fogs, and since we do have snowlands in this deck, we can add these. Glacial Crevices is an enchantment that sacrifices snow mountains to fog for 0 mana, and Sunstone sacks any snowland for 2 mana and then fogs. You can constantly recur those lands that you sacrifice to fog essentially every round. This next deck is kind of a flavor based deck around sand bending. We're going to be using deserts that ETB and do damage. This is something I've worked with before, and it's actually more powerful than it looks. Basically, we want to play the deserts that ping when they ETB, and then we're going to use Toph's earth bending ability to animate them, sacrifice them, bring them back, and ping again, and so on and so on. For the deck breakdown, it's pretty similar to the first 15 mana ramp, but it's going to be kind of misleading. We're going to get land from other ways. Draw is 12, removals 11, deserts is 15, burn damage kind of effects are also 15. We're going to have 38 lands. But we will have other damage dealers, like Tanuk Memorial Ensign, who is probably one of the best. It is a 3 mana Gruul commander that deals 1 damage to each opponent when a land enters the battlefield under your control. And if it's the second time this ability would trigger, you draw a card, and it's a 2/4. Sabo Tender is a little cactus guy who deals 1 damage to each opponent when a land ETBs. I love that he's desert themed too. There are a bunch of cards that do this. I think I have like around 10 in the deck. And don't worry, 1 damage sounds like nothing, right? Well, what if we doubled the damage trigger with Traveling Kokobo or Ancient Green Warded that double landfall abilities? Elishnorn, Mother of Machines, doubles all ETB abilities, including landfall abilities. And then you can throw in some damage doublers and damage triplers like City of Fire. If you play your desert, it'll do 3 damage, essentially bolting an opponent. But we don't want to just play a desert once and that's it. That's kind of weak. We can use many ways to sacrifice them, then replay them from the graveyard. Also, we will play a lot of cards that say play an additional land each turn. So we can sacrifice it, replay it, sacrifice it, replay it, and so on, damaging the opponent again and again. Ice Till Explorer is one of the best options. It's a 4 mana insect scout that allows you to play an additional land each turn and play lands from your graveyard and mills you essentially 1 card when you play a land. Now, Zurin Orb is a classic way to sacrifice as many lands as you want and get 2 life per activation. We can also bounce them to our hand and then replay them. Zell is a 3 mana red legendary creature human monk. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. He gets +1/+0 for each land you control, and at the beginning of your end step, return a land you control to its owner's hand. It's a 0/3. We'll also play the bounce lands and the grove lands, or I should say layer cycle lands like Rift's Grove. When it ETBs, you return a non-layer land to your hand, and you can tap it to add 1 of 3 different mana. Since we are doing the damage with lands thing, we can do the whole Valakut thing as well. It says when a mountain enters and you have at least 5 mountains, you may have it deal 3 damage to any target. This requires you to do some build arounds. Like the last deck, we focused on plains. For this one, we're going to actually focus on mountains. We'll obviously put as many mountains that are fetchable with, the multicolored mountains. But we'll also do something like the Dryad of Ilian Grove that turns all lands into every basic land type. We will have a lot of desert based stuff, but one in particular I want to highlight is Desert Warfare. It's a 4 mana green enchantment. Whenever you sacrifice a desert and whenever a desert card is put into your graveyard from your hand or library, put that card onto the battlefield under your control at the beginning of your next end step. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more deserts, create that many 1/1 red, green, and white sand warrior creature tokens. They gain haste. Now, I actually included some enchantment tutoring to get this out because it's so good. It gives us an option to get those deserts back, even if we can't earthbend them. And then obviously this is a reference to Hazazon. He actually has a new card called Shaper of Sand, which is a 3-mana Naya legendary creature, human warrior, has Desert Walk. You may play desert lands from your graveyard, which is going to be great. Whenever a desert enters the battlefield under your control, create 2/1/1 red, green, and white sand warrior creature tokens, and it's a 3/3. This next deck is based around something I've been playing around for years, various versions, but Toph is a perfect thing for it. It is a Manland theme. Earthbender actually gives us an answer to Manland's greatest weakness, and that was if they died, you lose a land. But since we have Earthbending, it actually brings them back, so the danger is essentially minimal. Needle Spires is an example. It comes in taps for red or white, and you can pay 4 mana to make it a land creature. It becomes a 2/1 elemental with double strike. It's still a land. But if you earthbend it into a 0/0 with 2+1/+1 counters, then later animate it with its ability, it'll be a 2/1 with 2+1/+1 counters. So it'll be a 4/3 with double strike. For a deck breakdown, we have 14 mana, 13 draw, 13 removal, 15 man lands, and then untapping is going to be a huge theme because man lands are kind of mana intensive. So Seaboard Muse effects, stuff like that is going to be really good. And then lands, we got 38. Probably the best man land you can actually throw in here is Inkmoth Nexus. It becomes a 1/1 Blinkmoth artifact creature with flying and infect. So you can put counters on it and you'll actually end the game quickly because obviously, as you know, you need 10 poison counters to lose the game. And we'll throw in a bunch of earthbending into this deck. And I believe Earthbend 8 is the highest earthbend you can achieve. Avatar Kyoshi Earthbender does this. She is an 8 mana green legendary creature, human avatar. During your turn, Avatar Kyoshi has hexproof, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, Earthbend 8, then untap that land. It's a 6/6. So if you do that with Inkmoth Nexus, it'll become a 9/9 with flying and infect. You can also throw the indestructible lands in here, like Thornglint Bridge, or you can play Terra Eternal that has shot up in price thanks to Earthbending. It's a 3 mana white enchantment. It says all lands are indestructible. Manlands take mana to activate, so playing Seaborn Muse and tutoring for it will be important. If you don't know, it untaps all permanents you control during each other player's upkeep. And Blossoming Tortoise boosts land creatures, gives them +1/+1, and also decreases activated abilities by 1 for your lands. So Needle Spire, instead of costing 4, it'll cost 3. Speaking of boosting land cards, there are like land creature tribal cards we can throw in here. Earth Surge is a 4 mana green enchantment that says each land gets +2/+2 as long as it's a creature. Sylvan Advocate's a 2 mana green elf druid ally, has vigilance. As long as you control 6 or more lands, Sylvan Advocate and land creatures you control get +2/+2. And then you got Embodiment of Insight. It's a 5 mana green elemental with vigilance. Land creatures you control have vigilance. And then whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may have target land you control become a 3/3 elemental creature with haste until end of turn. It's still a land. It's a 4/4. Moving on to the next deck, it's based around Toph's artifact ability, specifically the maps. Expedition Map is the most well known. It tutors for any land card and puts it into your hand. But thanks to Toph, we can earthbend, then crack it and return it to play and use it again. This deck is unique because it's going to be using a lot of lands as our answers, as our win cons, as our draw, as our removal. You name it, we can do it with lands. For the deck breakdown, you got mana is 16, draw is 11, removal is 10, specific utility lands, we got 20 in here, and we have a total of 45 lands in the deck. Now, world map is similar to expedition map. Expedition map, obviously, you pay to sack it, get any land put into your hand. World map has two abilities. You pay 1, sack it, you go search for a basic land, put into your hand, or you can pay 3 seconds, search for any land and put into your hand. And then Realms Uncharted is a really great card that I've used to trick opponents. So it is a 3 mana green instant. You search your library for up to 4 lands and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards, put the chosen cards into your graveyard and the rest into your hand, and then shuffle your library. So what you want to do to get the best results is to use Realms Uncharted to get 2 utility lands and then 2 copy lands. For example, some utility lands, Valakut, which we talked about earlier, Maze of Ith, kind of removes a creature from combat. Field of the Dead makes tokens. Glacial Chasms prevents all damage. The last 2 are game enders, but there's plenty of utility lands in this deck. Then your other 2 will be copy abilities. Typically, I do Echoing Deeps and Vesuva, but Shifting Woodland and Thespian Stage can be good choices as well. You want something that copies lands in the graveyard or on the field. Worst case scenario for you, they send both your utility lands to the graveyard and give you the copy lands. Or you just play Echoing Deeps to copy utility land that you want the most, and the Vesuva to copy your Echoing Deeps. So you get 2 copies of that utility land. If your opponent gives you 1 copy land and 1 utility land, you just copy the the one in the graveyard if they give you Echoing Deeps, or if they give you Vesuva, you still get 2 utility lands. We essentially are pretending to give our opponents choices, but in the end, we're going to win out. Like I said, we're going to have 20 utility lanes in this deck. Mistfilled Plains tucks something from our graveyard into our library. So if there's a land we want to refetch with a map, we can do it. Myria of the Sky Ruin brings a creature back to your field from your graveyard at your upkeep, but you have to have 7 planes, which is definitely possible in this deck. Horizon lands essentially tap to draw a card, but you have to sacrifice them. Dark Depths gives you a 2020 flying indestructible creature named Merit Lage. Urza Saga gets us tokens and tutors for our map. Hall of Heliod gets us enchantments back to the top of our library if we want. There's a few enchantments that we really want. Deserted Temple lets us untap lands using multiple utility lands a turn, like Maze of Ith. We can untap it and then tap it again to essentially fog 2 creatures. Talon Gates of Madar phases out any creature, so if you're bouncing and we're using this, it could be pretty good control. Manascape Refractor is a slept on card, especially for a Toph deck. It's a 3 mana artifact. When it enters tapped, and then it has all activated abilities of all lands on the battlefield. And then you could spend mana as though it were any color to activate the activation cost of Manascape Refractor's abilities. So basically, if all your artifacts are lands, this has all the abilities of your lands and your artifacts. It's a really good card. So, like, if you have a Maze of Ith out, this becomes a Maze of Ith. If you throw it in your Manland deck, it can become a creature. And you name it. This can be a copy of one of your maps if you wanted it to be. Mirage Mirror is another way to copy things. It's a 3 mana artifact. You pay 2, it becomes a copy of target artifact, creature, enchantment, or land. So even though we're in Naya, we can still copy our lands, which is pretty cool. One combo that is really crazy is an All Will Be One in Dark Depths combo. I actually had this used against me. It's pretty brutal. So All Will Be One is a 5 mana red enchantment. Whenever one or more counters are put on a permanent or player, All Will Be One deals that much damage to target opponent, creature an opponent controls, or planeswalker an opponent controls. So essentially, when Dark Depths ETBs, it gets 10 ice counters placed on it, and then you can remove the ice counters to eventually get that 2020 Merit Lodge token. However, if you're playing it, you do 10 damage, bounce it back to your hand, play it again, do 10 damage, make a copy of it, do 10 damage. There's so many cool ways to go about it. This deck will be about Toph's activated abilities, specifically around indestructibility and colorless. And I wanted, obviously, to do a colorblind theme as a joke, and it kind of worked out pretty well. The only colored permanents or colored cards in this whole deck are earthbending ones, and we have plenty of earthbending in this deck. And the colorless also have a theme of indestructibility. Because if, let's say, Dark Steel Mirror is a land, we can earthbend them, make them stronger, and he'll be indestructible. So we'll hopefully have an indestructible army of land creatures. So Dark Steel Mirror is a 3 mana artifact creature mirror. It has Indestructible and it's a 0/1. It's a simple card, usually not that good, but with Toph, we can make it great. For the deck breakdown, mana, we got 20. Draw, we have 18. Removal, we have 12, which I think this has the most mana, draw, and removal in any of the decks. And then Indestructible, we have 25 Indestructible cards. So a quarter of our deck is Indestructible. We have 11 Earthbending cards, and we have 39 lands. And some of our indestructible artifacts are essentially creepy toys. I just happen to work that way. You got Stuffy Doll, it's a 5 mana artifact creature construct, indestructible. When it enters the battlefield, choose a player. When Stuffy Doll is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to the chosen player, and it can tap to do 1 damage to itself, and it's a 0/1. I don't think they've eroded this to be a toy, but they totally should. And then you got Giggling Skitterspite, which is one of the more powerful cards in this deck. It's a 4 mana artifact creature toy, has indestructible. When it attacks, blocks, or becomes the target of a spell, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. And you can pay 5 to Monstrosity 5, which you put 5+1/+1 counters on it and becomes Monstrosities, and it's a 1/1. So if we Earthbend Giggling Skitterspite, it would become a 8/8 if we also use its monstrous ability. Pretty powerful. One attack, you do what? You do 24 damage just from burn damage, and if it hits, that's another 8 damage. So that's 32 damage just right off the bat. Our board wipes will also be artifacts. Oblivion Stone and Boom Pile are a couple of them. Oblivion Stone is a 3 mana artifact. Pay 4, tap it. Put a fate counter on target permanent. You pay 5, tap it. Sacrifice Oblivion Stone. Destroy each non-land permanent card without a fate counter on it. Then remove all fate counters from all permanents. So you put one on Toph to protect her, and then wipe the board after you earthbend this card. That way it comes back and you can do it again and again and again. Same thing with the Boom Pile. It is a 4 mana artifact. You tap it, flip a coin. If you win the flip, destroy all non-land permanents. Remember, a lot of our stuff's going to be indestructible, and all of our artifacts, which majority of our deck is artifacts, will be lands. So that's the power of Toph. I know you guys have seen it. There's all the board wipes, like usually they're white board wipes that say destroy all non-land permanents. Obviously, Toph decks are great with this, but these two are artifacts that you can keep recurring, so they're even more powerful. Even some mana ramp in our deck will be indestructible. Skyclave Relic is an upgraded Darksteel Ingot. I used to play Darksteel Ingot all the time when I first started playing Commander, but since then it's kind of been phased out, of course. It's an indestructible that taps for 1 of any color, but Skyclave Relic has Kicker 3, and then it's essentially gets 2 copies if you use Kicker, and then it's indestructible and taps for any color. I even threw World Slayer in here. It's an equipment that costs 5 mana. When an equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, destroy all permanents other than World Slayer, and it's equipped for 5. So that's a powerful ability. It destroys literally everything. It doesn't say non-land permanents. It's all permanents. A lot of your stuff will be indestructible, which is nice, especially if the equipped creature is indestructible. So you could stick around and then just keep hitting your opponents. And then, of course, just like the other deck, you want to put all your indestructible lands in here. You got access to, I believe, 5. Cascading Cataracts, I think. All the artifact ones, which I think there's 4 in this color pairing. Thanks so much for watching to the end of the video. I think right before I started filming, I started coming down with a sore throat, so I apologize if you can hear that. I enjoy building with new cards and building decks in different ways to see what works. If you like this kind of thing, consider subscribing. Quick shout out to my paid patrons, Who's Neil and Brooke. I appreciate your support. If you'd like more content from me, check out my Patreon. I post at least 1 video a month on there just for you guys. And if you like unique deck builds, check out the deck build video that's popping up on the screen now. And until next time, I'll be seeing you.